Guys, do you struggle finding jeans that are comfortable and the perfect fit? Then you gotta try Mott & Bow. Mott & Bow jeans are beautifully handcrafted. They use only the finest denim fabrics from the best mills in the world. Family artisans have been honing their denim skills for 35 years, and this is evident the second you put on the first pair. Mott & Bow jeans are ridiculously comfortable with a classic, clean style. And get this, they're at least half the price of designer jeans of some of the same quality that sell for over $200. Mott & Bow is also currently the only jean company on the market to offer a free home try-on program. Just choose your first pair, along with an alternate waist size. They'll send you both pairs so you can decide which is the best fit for you. Then send the other one back free. Just try Mott & Bow today, and you'll notice a difference between them and every other pair of jeans you own, yeah, even the ones you have on right now. For 20% off your first purchase, visit mottandbow.com and enter the code MIKE at checkout. That's spelled MOTTANDBOW.com, promo code MIKE.
It's time for some straight talk. The big wireless companies charge a boatload for their superior network coverage. But guess what? Straight Talk uses the same cell towers but charges a lot less. Who knew? Well, now you do. And I do. So let's do something. It's time to switch to Straight Talk. Unlimited plans start as low as $35 a month on America's largest, most dependable networks. Straight Talk Wireless. Only at Walmart.
Savings may vary. A month equals 30 days. Please refer always to the latest terms and conditions of service at straighttalk.com.
Could be an historic day today for the NFL. We could have an owner sue the commissioner. We can find out today. Not just the commissioner, the entire league. Russillo in today, Ryen Russillo from The Russillo Show, and my co-host 3 days a week, Will Cain, early here on a Friday morning.
Good morning.
My man at the hotel across the street driving in. I think everybody that fills in always does this man, it's early joke, so I don't want to do 5 minutes on that.
Nah.
We're better than that. We're better content than that. What?
You in a T-shirt? Look at me.
You look great. I
got up. I look professional. I'm ready to knock this out of the park.
I feel like you're dressed like you're trying to impress people still, and I'm over that now.
You know what?
Like, this is who I am. This is what you're getting.
And the funny thing is, I don't want to be suit guy. I don't.
Everybody thinks you are suit guy, though.
They think I am suit guy. I'm not suit guy. I'm juggling a lot of things over here, a lot of decisions, and it's hard to wake up and decide how do I make this work all day long.
I want to thank Mike and Mike, especially with everything ending this run, almost 20 years. We'll be on next week with those guys, so thanks for having us and fill in today. Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All of our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. We will get to all the Roger Goodell angles on the Jerry Jones thing that was a big part of the news yesterday. The Ezekiel Elliott decision, which feels like a more real decision. The win by the Seahawks last night, Thursday Night Football Rams, a lot of hoops. But we start with the biggest news of last night.
Off the top.
Richard Sherman ruptured his Achilles against Arizona, putting him out for the rest of the season. Carroll, the head coach, announced the injury after Seattle's 22-16 win. Sherman was hurt in the third quarter while making a tackle, and he was seen hugging Seahawks players and coaches on the sideline after exiting and did not return. Sherman, who was on Seattle's injury report last week with an Achilles injury, has criticized Thursday night games in the past. He's never missed a game since entering the league in 2011.
Yeah, it seemed to come as no surprise, Ryan, as we were talking earlier. He seemed to know right away, telling teammates, it's the Achilles, which has been hurting him all season. But I guess this was the final straw. It finally snapped on him.
How about that injury confirmation where you go, I wonder what it is. He's out, and then you go, you could see it, reading his lips going, it's the Achilles, he's done. I'm a little surprised we didn't get a raging Richard Sherman after the loss and the fact now that he's out for the year, and he had this contract situation, and they spent the offseason flirting with trading him, and that was a real wake-up call thing from what I had heard, is that it wasn't so much that they wanted to move on from Richard Sherman, but they were growing tired of the act, and that they threw it out there to the league, yeah, we would listen on this, and then they didn't deny it, remember? Remember, when the team says, yeah, we're going to listen on this thing, instead of denying it like so many other people do, it doesn't just make us reevaluate who Seattle is, but I think you have to have an open mind about what Sherman's future will be with that franchise.
And when you say raging Richard Sherman, are you talking about criticizing Thursday Night Football?
Absolutely.
Something he's done in the past and hasn't done it so far with this story.
Doug Baldwin, all those guys were on it. Here is Richard Sherman on the injury.
Yeah, I knew what was happening. I mean, it's been bothering me all season. So, it's one of them things you just have to play through as long as you can. And then, when it goes, it goes. I don't know. There's a lot of stress on it, but, I think it would have gone eventually anyway. But, it definitely didn't help. But it's part of the game. It's part of the game. You know, unfortunately, we had to play. We had to go out there, did everything I could to try to help my team win the game, and, you know, injuries happen.
Off the top.
Again, Will Cain, Ryen Russillo in today for the guys. Here's story number 2, and it has been story number 1 for months now. A 3-judge panel on the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals has denied the emergency injunction request for Ezekiel Elliott, meaning his 6-game suspension for a violation of the league's personal conduct policy related to domestic violence is back on. This means the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals will hear Elliott's appeal on an expedited basis, but not until December 1st, pending some unforeseen legal twist, and we've had a few. Elliott now will not be able to play in the Cowboys' next 4 games: Atlanta, Philadelphia, the Chargers, and Thanksgiving's game against Washington.
Injunction, stay, emergency, appeal. I mean, I imagine everyone is tired of these terms, trying to figure out what's going on. Here's what matters. Ezekiel Elliott's not playing for the Dallas Cowboys for the next 4 weeks guaranteed, and most likely for the next 6 weeks. And if it is any consequence whatsoever that he's going to have some appeal on December 1st, you got to ask yourself, what's it matter if you're guilty or innocent if you've already served the punishment? He will have served the punishment, and everything that happens after that will be of little consequence to fans, to the Dallas Cowboys, and to everyone except for Ezekiel Elliott and his reputation.
We'll do more on this. I want to hear from Ryan Smith, who gives us the scariest phrase ever on this story, that it's not over. But still more tonight.
Off the top.
College basketball season tips today. 163 Division I men's games. The only game involving ranked teams, number 25 Texas A&M taking on 11th ranked West Virginia. That's 6 Eastern on ESPN in the Armed Forces Classic in Germany. Top-ranked Duke hosts Elon at 7 Eastern. That's Marvin Bagley III, the number 1 player in the 2017 ESPN 100, making his debut. That one's tonight, 11:30 Eastern on ESPN.
Believe it or not,
yeah,
I'm kind of into this. Duke has 4 top 10 recruits on their roster. 4. These are guys that we'll be talking about next year being drafted, and maybe because I'm a Dallas Mavericks fan, I'm a little invested in mock drafts.
You're more into the mock draft right now.
Yes. So I want to see Marvin Bagley. I want to see Michael Porter. I want to see Mo Bamba.
You're going to watch this game tonight. You're going to be back. You're going to be with the family.
No, I didn't say that.
Will Cain all day putting in work away from the fam. And you're going to tell your wife, hey, you know what I'd like to do?
On tonight.
Right. You know what I'd like to do, hon? Are you into this Duke thing? Have you been following recruiting?
Off the top.
With a 3-pointer in the second quarter on Thursday in Denver, Carmelo Anthony moved to 24th all-time on the scoring list, passing Allen Iverson. Anthony, 33, sits at 24,370 points, 135 points behind Ray Allen for the next spot in the all-time list. It was, however, in a Thunder loss, meaning Melo and his new team, are now 4-7 on the season, and the Thunder are yet to beat a Western Conference team, now 0-6 against their own.
All right, Mr. NBA, is it time to hit panic yet?
You know what's funny is when I watched them in the beginning of the year, I went, okay, so wait a minute, what's different about it? Because the Russ show, which is really fun to watch and was an incredible and historic year last year, it wasn't really built for being playoff success because the rest of the roster wasn't very good. So you add a Paul George, a top 15 player. You add somebody like Melo, who I still think has more left despite all the hits he's taken publicly being with the Knicks. And I was horrified in the beginning of the season. I go, wait a minute. It's the same exact thing with better players. Russ isn't interested, but now Russ, I thought, was deferring to them more. He's taking 7 less shots per game this year than he was last year. And now, even though defensively it's okay, they are a mess. And every single one of those guys, their shooting numbers have dropped off dramatically from October to November. So I'm not that worried yet. Some GMs that I would talk to thought the Thunder would be the second best team in the West behind Golden State. So it's weird. They were ugly against Sacramento a couple nights ago, but I'm not too freaked out yet, but they're going to have to figure out how to play together a little bit better.
This is the story of the NBA season so far. Should we panic? Should Cavs fans panic? Should Lonzo fans panic? Should Thunder fans panic? Hopefully you can help us answer those questions today.
I don't know if I can answer them all, but I do know this. Everybody is new. The great thing about the Warriors and the reason why they've looked bored at times, although they're cranking it back up now defensively, every team other than the Warriors is all of these new pieces. And it takes time, and for a lot of the teams, it's been incredibly frustrating, of course, except for the Celtics.
Off the top.
All right, last one here. James Harden, speaking of the Cavs, speaking of new, triple-double last night of the Rockets, getting past the Cavs. Cleveland now 5-7 on the season. Defense, again, an issue. The Cavs become the first team to allow 112 or more points in each of 10 or more straight games within a season since the 92-93 Mavericks. As for Harden, he goes for 30, 10 assists, and the consecutive 30-10 game for him coming in this week. Prior to this run, he had never even had one such stretch where he'd had 30 and 10. So that's 30 points, 10 assists, now back-to-back games for Harden.
First of all, when you're the Cavs, you do not want to be compared to the 92-93 Dallas Mavericks. That is not a standard you want to be compared against. As for James Harden, phenomenal the last 2 games, except, Ryan, in the fourth quarter, right? After 43 minutes, ended up playing 43 minutes, 1 for 8 in the fourth quarter last night. Does it catch up to you?
LeBron hasn't been the issue. I'm telling you.
No. I'm talking about James Harden there.
Yeah.
Tailing off in the fourth, putting these monster numbers up, but not in the fourth.
He made a play, though, to Capella to seal the game. It was the scrum. The ball's at the foul line, and then he just throws up an alley-oop to Capella for an and one. That was such an incredible play because it's chaos. Nobody really knows what's going on. Harden ends up out of the pile and then looks up and is like, hey, you know what, let me throw it over a defender for an alley-oop. So Houston keeps rolling.
Off the top.
Off the top on Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Pick from a range of coverage options with a Name Your Price tool to find a price that works for you. The show today, our first guest is who? Is it Golick Jr.? Is that usually how? What are we doing?
I don't. What are you asking me for? I'm new here.
I'm just kidding. I heard him on the ride in, and I go, man, talk about tired. No, Field Yates is our first guy. He'll be here, 7 Eastern. Want to remind everybody that we are on ESPN2 as well. Do you want to get back to the Sherman stuff here? Because I already played the bite for you. He goes, I knew it. He didn't rage. He didn't rip Thursday Night Football. Doug Baldwin went off on it a little bit. Thursday Night Football is never popular by the team that loses or the team that has injuries. We saw Richie Incognito blast it the other week, and that was after the Bills got destroyed by the Jets. And I always think it's kind of a little interesting when the players will go, all this league, all they care about is money. And you'd be like, yeah, the money that you make a chunk of. So I'm always very pro-player, but I think whenever it comes to Thursday, we blame Thursday football for things that happen every Sunday.
Right.
Like, it's
we
not like
Thursday
Sunday,
football for football.
Yeah, right. Oh, somebody was injured. It has to be because it's Thursday. Or maybe it was football.
We should say, though, we're having this conversation in the context of, wow, can't believe we're not having this conversation. You know what I mean? Richard Sherman has not blamed Thursday Night Football for his injury.
Yeah, I'm kind of going, when's that sound coming? Is it later today?
So let's just make that clear. Let's underline that. He is not blaming yet Thursday Night Football for his injury, but he's been very vocal about Thursday Night Football in the past. And I think it's worth noting that when it comes to I listen to players. I listen to what they're saying about, it's hard to turn around on 4 days rest. Last week, Richie Incognito of the Buffalo Bills was saying, this isn't cool. It's not cool to turn around on 3 days, 4 days preparation for a game. It's not how we do it. But the data doesn't back it up when it comes to injuries. It does not show that there's any greater risk of injury on Thursday nights versus any other day in the NFL.
He already had the injury on the injury report with the Achilles deal. Anyone that's ever torn their Achilles that I've talked to, sometimes they're surprised, but a lot of guys will say, I kind of knew it was coming. Or guys that I'll know that played pickup hoops their whole lives, and they get to 40, get to 50, and go, you know what? I'm just told, unless you want to blow an Achilles, be done. Don't play pickup hoops anymore. I think Booger McFarland's one of those dudes that's always talking about it. I don't know. He's one of those ex-athletes that'll tell me I'm just terrible at sports all the time.
Tells you you're terrible at sports?
Constantly. I love these guys. Shout out to Booger. But they'll just go, I'm like, fine, you want to play? Let's play sometime. You're like, I can't play anymore, my Achilles. But you know what you should do then? Not call out anybody else if you've already put yourself on the DL forever without even having the injury. So, yeah, I'm going at Booger right now a little bit.
You've called him onto the carpet. He said that you're not good at pickup hoops, and you said, let's just put this on the court and find out.
Why don't we play a little bit? Like, sorry, handle with care. Bubble wrap around the entire legs. So, guys that have Achilles injuries like this, Sherman's going, man, I knew this whole thing was done. Here's Doug Baldwin, though, who I think is always a great listen. His teammate, receiver for the Seahawks, talking about Thursday night.
Thursday Night Football.
Exhibit A, Exhibit B, Exhibit C, Exhibit D, Exhibit Z. Thursday Night Football should be illegal because the guys don't have enough time to recover.
Okay, look, it's never going away, first of all. And if we have, I think in life, forget sports because it always happens in sports, if there's a change in our routine and we can blame the change for something that we've done, then we're going to take that opportunity. If you give somebody an excuse, they're going to go ahead and use it. So I can't tell if this is players going, oh, it's just something different. It changes our routine. We don't like it. Or if it truly is this unhealthy, dangerous, poor version of the product. Because there were some awful games to start the year. Remember how bad some of these games were? Then we got that Rams Niners.
I was going to say, then there were some phenomenal games this year. Thursday Night Football has been somewhat immune this year to the, Thursday Night Football is an awful product.
Beginning of the year, it was bad.
I looked at it last week, and what we're in week 9.
Yep.
Something like 4 of these games have been really good, coming down to the end of the game.
This is week 10 now, right? Go ahead. Yeah, week 10.
The funny thing, listening to Doug Baldwin here, and I assume that sound is from last night, so I truthfully want to hear the players. I didn't play in the NFL. You got to be respectful of guys that have and the preparation and the routine that they go through.
Do you think a lot of people are surprised by that statement that you didn't play in the NFL right now?
Well, I used to be Jeremy Seahorn at bars across Austin, Texas, just in the off season, just hanging out. So, Jason Seahorn.
Well, no,
you got the name right back in the day.
I thought you were going to say Jeremy because you were going to say you were his brother. No.
No, I was Jason.
Seahorn's going, that's why I get all these friend requests from Texas.
But I will say this. You usually get these complaints about Thursday Night Football from the losing side of the equation.
Sure.
From the losing team on Thursday nights, like Richie Incognito last week when the Buffalo Bills lost. You rarely hear it from the team that wins. So you are hearing it this time from Doug Baldwin after win, albeit one where they lost one of their star players. I think the strongest argument against Thursday Night Football is this. It's the one from executives from CBS Sports and other media companies. You're just watering down the product. The problem with our ratings is saturation. The problem with our ratings is too many football games. The problem is Thursday, Sunday, Monday, with college on Saturday sprinkled in between. That's the best argument to me against Thursday Night Football.
Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio, presented by Progressive Insurance. Here's our guest list for today. Again, Field Yates at 7 Eastern, Darren Woodson at 8:30, Matt Burke and former Army Special Forces Green Beret Art Pugh at 9, Tim Tebow 9:30. All phone guests can join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. If you miss any of these guests, you can listen to all 4 hours of Mike and Mike on demand in the ESPN app. I'm Ryen Russillo here with Will Cain. So the other big piece of news that we have, at least from late last night, we said it off the top, and that is the 3-judge panel, Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, denying Ezekiel Elliott's request for an emergency injunction. That means he's going to be out at least 4 games until this next hearing on December 1st. Ryan Smith, our legal analyst, scaring us all with this.
No, it's not over, because here's what happens. The Players Association, when they made this appeal, they asked for 2 things. One was an emergency stay, essentially saying, let me play while you decide this appeal that I have. And the other one was to appeal the decision of the district court judge that didn't allow him to play, that preliminary injunction. The emergency stay is gone, so now he doesn't play for now. An expedited hearing has been scheduled on the appeal of the district court. So what does that mean? That means the lawyers are back in court. They will make more arguments about that injunction that the district court ruled on. They'll have procedural discussions, and then that will be ruled on. Now, if that goes against him, he has other appellate rights as well. So this thing is not over yet. But for now, he sits while the lawyers argue.
It's not over, Will, but it feels more over.
It's over.
It feels like we know what the plot is because you know at least he's sitting for 4 games.
I respect Ryan, and Ryan is giving you analysis through a legal prism. When he tells you it's not over, he means legally there is a fight to go on. But the public's appetite to keep up with Ezekiel Elliott's court case is over.
But that's been over now for weeks.
No, but Ryan, this is the nail in the coffin because what's about to happen is the punishment is imposed. He will start serving at least 4 games of his 6-game suspension. And that means, as far as the public's interest is concerned, it's over. I will say there's another angle which is not just not over, but it's just beginning. And that's the Jerry Jones fight against the NFL, because to the extent that you believe it's tied to Ezekiel Elliott's punishment, and I believe it is to some extent, not exclusively, but to some extent, that's where this battle moves. It moves from the courtrooms into the politics and Game of Thrones of the NFL.
So you're talking about the Jerry Jones angle. What about, before we do that, because I do want to do that, like bigger picture stuff, because this is incredible. Like, we spent the whole day yesterday when we were doing this topic going, is Jerry Jones going to serve the NFL with papers? He was threatening to do it. He said the papers are drawn up, and I'm handing to him on Friday if you go through with this Goodell extension. But from a football standpoint, I think there's going to be a lot of people that say, well, Ezekiel Elliott now, with this whole deal, there's less distractions. They know what's on the table. They know it's at least for 4 games here. They get him back towards the end of the season. It's a team fighting for the playoffs. They're right outside of it right now in those top 6 in the NFC. I believe we overrate distractions. From the outside, we are consumed with it. Oh, they have to be asked about it every week. I think players do such a great job compartmentalizing this stuff that maybe it's some kind of relief, but I don't expect the Cowboys to play. The easy thing to say is I don't expect them to play better without a talent like Ezekiel Elliott, but I don't think they're going to be better just because they know what's behind them. I think so many of these players, so many of his teammates are like, oh, okay, what is it now? Oh, it's a month? I mean, they're probably tired of it too, but I don't think it's such a distraction that it's really impacted their play on the field.
I don't know that we do overrate distractions. I think that you're right. It probably hasn't impacted the team as a whole. It hasn't impacted the team overall, but I want you to consider this. This was Zeke's schedule this week and last week. He flew to New York on Thursdays for legal hearings in the Southern District of New York. That meant he was taking either Wednesday, Thursday, or Thursday, Friday completely out of preparation. Jason Garrett was like, look, Zeke's a pro. He did makeup on last Friday. He crammed to understand the game plan. But he's like, these are the days we're doing walkthroughs. These are the days we're scheming and game planning and understanding what we're going to do that week. That's a pretty big distraction for a single individual player. In this case, Zeke. I don't know how much, Ryan, that bleeds over into the entire team. That part's probably overrated.
We're the ones always asking about it being a distraction, though. And it's part of our job. We have to ask that question. Hey, your thoughts this week. If I'm covering the Cowboys, if I'm on the Cowboys beat every single day, I have to ask about it. But if I wasn't, how often do you think the team is talking about this stuff? I don't think that they do. I don't think guys are sitting around the locker room being like, man, did you see the news? You hear Ryan Smith say it's not actually over yet? Like, what does that mean? Did you hear Will Cain's breakdown at First Take? Yeah, I agreed with some of his stuff.
I know they say that. I think that when it comes to the Ezekiel Elliott case, they probably got tired of it. I bet it came to be.
Who didn't?
No, even the players, the Dallas Cowboys, I bet it got to be Wednesday, Thursday, like, is Zeke with us this week? I don't know.
And as far as the game planning stuff, like I do understand it, but it wouldn't be the first time ever, especially when you look at injuries with running backs. It's probably the easiest position to figure out what the game plan is. And then you plug in one of the other running backs, you go, okay, you ready to go? You're like,
yeah, man, but it's not like you're in the ice tub and they're throwing stuff up on the whiteboard in the next room over. You're on a plane to New York while the rest of your teammates are in Dallas.
Yeah, but if you're McFadden or you're one of the backups, you're not going, wait a minute, the Second Circuit Court said what? I thought he was going to win this appeal. I wasn't really ready this week. I just don't think any of the guys are as affected by this as we are consumed from
this
a news
news
standpoint.
Broke last Friday that he was going to be available for the Kansas City Chiefs game. Don't you think Alfred Morris and Rod Smith were like, okay, I guess that changes my weekend?
Yeah, I do, but not to the point where they get out there and they're going out to Garrett in the sideline, going like, I just don't really know what to do. I'm like, hey, we hand it off to you and you run in that direction, okay? Yeah, there's a block every now and then. Yeah, I think I am. I think I am minimizing the running back job. All right, Mike and Mike with Will Cain today, the Russillo Show, presented by Pennzoil Synthetics, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. When you have two sides that no one's rooting for, who do you actually root for? A huge story. Could be a huge story today in the NFL. Right here on Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio.
Hey everyone, Mike Golick here. Support for the Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Computer, execute 12.4p operation.
Optimizing algorithm. Running encryption packet alpha. Night. Oh, I don't feel so good.
What is it, computer?
Is it hot in here? It feels hot in here. I feel a little clammy. I should lie down or something.
A computer with a virus? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Those oysters Rockefeller were a mistake.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
It is a Friday morning for Will Cain and Ryen Russillo in today. We are on my show Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You got First Take right after this.
I do.
I have a flight to Chicago.
What's going on in Chicago?
We have a benefit we'll get to a little bit later. Van Pelt's actually hosting it. Oh. This isn't even a thing. I separately was like, yes, I also will go. And now
you
he's
and
going to be there.
SVP, boys are back in town.
Yeah, but he's going to be hosting. I'm just going to be hanging in the back.
Can I just tell you something? I saw a picture the other day. One of the reasons I'm doing the whole tie suit thing today is because this shirt's in the awkward, do I go 1-button, 2-button down thing?
I like what you're doing with it.
So the tie, makes that decision easy. I saw a picture of you and SVP the other day from, back in the glory days. You were going 3-button down, man, my friend. You were down to the navel. I'm telling you, I was shocked.
Okay.
And then I wasn't shocked.
Yeah, but what you're conveniently leaving out is you're acting as if that was something I was doing and going, this is my look, this is my move.
Don't you try, everybody was going 3 down.
No, but you're talking about the picture where we're standing next to each other?
Yes.
Yeah, we're trying to do almost like a boy band pose. Look at that pose. That pose is stupid. So you think that was like, hey, this is going to really look good with me and my arms out to the side? Like, that was an Instagram duck face before Instagram.
So you're telling me I catch you on a random Tuesday, you weren't 3 buttons down?
Yeah, I'm telling you that. I don't even know that I wear dress shirts all that much anymore.
Your sleeves aren't helping your argument this morning.
No, I would imagine. I can understand that one. All right, so what do we have? We have Jerry Jones threatening to sue the NFL. He said that papers are drawn up. He's ready to serve them to the league on Friday if, as expected, the Goodell contract extension goes through. And do we have the Schefter? Can you guys hit that for me, or do you guys want me to hit it? All right, I'll find it here. Before we set up this Schefter sound, all right, here it is, Schefter sound in red.
Jerry Jones's role model was Al Davis, and Al Davis loved to go after the league, and Al Davis didn't like it when the power of the league resided in the league office or with the commissioner. He didn't believe it should be that way. And Jerry Jones now believes the exact same thing. He believes that the owners, and maybe even him, should be controlling this league, not Roger Goodell. And the league has done any number of things that I think have upset and bothered and irked him to the point now where he's taking matters into his own hand.
I don't know who to root for here. I think a lot of people are conflicted. For years, it's been very anti-Roger Goodell. It has been, we got to get this guy out of here. I've heard so many people that I work with demand he be fired. I was actually surprised. I'm never really a big, hey, fire that guy. Hey, put him on the list. He should lose his job. So all of the people that have been anti-Goodell for a long time, that have wanted him to be out as commissioner of the NFL, do they go, yes, go get him? Oh, I'm actually kind of rooting for Jerry Jones now.
No, it's not the sense I've gotten. Those that have been so anti-Roger Goodell look up and go, I think I'm more anti-Jerry. So I think that all those people who have been anti-Roger Goodell find themselves on the side of Roger Goodell. Now listen, Ryan, I don't think we have to pick sides. But I think that my inclination is to lean towards Jerry. Now, this is not because I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. And
it never is, although consistently I think you side with Dallas, Romo.
You want to keep going?
Yeah, I'm going to stop.
My argument on that is always when righteousness and objectivity are both pulling in the same direction, how can you tell the difference? But what I'm telling you here is Jerry's a divisive figure even in Dallas. I think what I see here, and the reason I end up siding with Jerry Jones to some extent, is I think this is simply about power and it's resetting the employer-employee relationship. And I get it. When you spend $1 billion to buy something, and it's increased in value to $3 billion, $4 billion in the Dallas Cowboys case, you have massive payrolls, you're bringing in revenues, you are paying somebody $20 million a year, they've pocketed $200 million.
And you're talking Goodell's salary here.
Yeah.
Because at times he's made double that.
Yeah, but he's got $200 million in his pocket, and this extension is on the books to double that over the next, what is it? It would be the next 7-8 years. I think it's rational for an owner to look up and go, you know what? Are we getting our money's worth with this deal? Is this guy who works for me understand that he works for me, or does he think that I work for him now? And I think those are the questions that not just Jerry Jones, but several owners are asking themselves today with Roger Goodell. Who works for who?
That is really, I think, the best way of putting it, because the dynamic is so odd. Because we look at the commissioner as if he's in power. But we know, well, wait a minute, let's not forget this. When all the labor disputes happen, there's one side that the commissioner's taking. He's taking the owner's side because he works for the owners. So when you look back at the NBA when David Stern was in charge, it felt like David Stern was in charge. It felt like the owners kind of reported to him. If he had an owner saying something that he didn't like, Stern could go after the owner. But ultimately it was the same condition, it was the same deals, but Stern had been in power for such a long time that I think we all kind of accepted that. Where Goodell, it's been, over 10 years now, but it's gone so bad on the PR front for Goodell. Maybe Jerry sees weakness. Maybe Jerry goes, you know what I'm kind of tired of? Paying this guy sometimes $30, $40 million a year, and all he does is tell me I'm wrong. And for those that think this is only about Ezekiel Elliott, yeah, it looks convenient. It looks bad. It looks hypocritical for Goodell because he's the guy during Deflategate going, we love
for Jerry.
Jerry's saying, you know what? I love how the commissioner's handling this.
Right.
And that was always the thing about Deflategate that drove me nuts. It's like, don't make this out to be you hate the Pats. Don't make this out to be we want to hurt the Pats and we want to make it harder for them to win a Super Bowl, because what you're going to be doing if you want to lower this bar on what can actually be enforceable here by the commissioner, you're then giving him power to do this to everybody else when your time comes. Okay, we're talking about footballs that are a little bit softer, and we're also talking about lying, perhaps, depending on who you believe with Deflategate. But when every other fan base and every other owner is cheering for that outcome that they ended up getting, I'm going, you might not want this. You may not want it. It's exactly what's happened here because Goodell was going to he wasn't going to mess around with any accusation of domestic violence again. He wasn't going to have Ray Rice Part 2. He was never going to do that. So you knew Ezekiel Elliott was going to get the 6 games no matter what. If there was anything that Goodell felt like was wrong here, Zeke was getting all of that suspension. So now it looks like Jerry's only fighting back here, but I think it's more about what you're saying. Hey, man, we gave you this job. I think it's human nature to never be able to get past that. That if you're one of those 32 owners, you sit there and you look at Roger and you look at all of that money, and it doesn't matter that you're a billionaire. You're going, man, can't we get somebody for like $15 million a year to just tell us we're wrong?
You know what? It does matter that you're a billionaire because who do you think is more open to being told they're wrong? The guy making $30,000 a year who has 5 bosses, or the billionaire who hasn't answered to anybody in 20 years, all of a sudden hires a guy who tells him he's wrong repeatedly.
I'm saying it doesn't matter that a billionaire like that. I'm saying it doesn't matter that they're billionaires as if they don't care they're paying him all of this money. The point you're making is perfect. Yeah. These guys aren't used to being told no.
Right. And so what I'm telling you is that I'm not saying the Ezekiel Elliott suspension doesn't have something to do with this. Clearly, to some extent, that's motivating Jerry Jones. But to me, that's more the spark that's lighting the powder keg, or the spark that's lighting the entire warehouse full of powder kegs. And they're looking at it not just that he's telling them that they're wrong, but he's not doing what they want him to do when it comes to the protest during the national anthem. They want him to lay down the law. They are looking at television ratings that are dipping.
Okay, is that
sponsorships that are coming back going, you know what, we have a problem. They look at all this and they go, $40 million.
$40 million. How much is that his fault, the player protest? How that's played out? We've read all this stuff. All these sources and all, source says this, source doesn't like that. If you were in a room and you were an owner, what could you say to Goodell about the protest? Being, this is your fault?
No, but first of all,
his handling, you handle it better.
This is not a cosign with the ownership. This is not a cosign with Jerry Jones on an indictment for Roger Goodell's job. I think Roger Goodell is in somewhat of a no-win position. How does he actually come out and handle these situations? But I get it from the owner's perspective of, I don't know either, but it's your job to figure it out. That's why we hired you. We know this. They want him to demand that the players stand. We know that they want him to enforce a rule. They want him to throw the hammer down. They don't want to do it themselves. Jerry Jones doesn't want to be the guy going out saying, you know what? Or Bob McNair saying, you know what? I want my players to stand. They want that to come from Roger Goodell and the league.
Right, but it would be a reflection or continuation of their beliefs on what they want them to do. I've always wondered here with Goodell, especially after that Seth Wickersham piece, and we had the leaks, and that led to the Bob McNair quote about the inmates running the prison. So we know that piece, but there was so much other stuff in that piece that was overshadowed by that awful quote. But what we have here is, I feel like, and this is a guess, and it's really 2 different things here. Roger came out of that story far more sympathetic to the player's side of this story than I ever would have thought. Okay? Do you think it's possible that Roger just actually feels that way? Like, I want to listen to you guys, all right? I don't want to just be somebody that goes, hey, stop messing with my money. I have an open mind. Tell me your concerns. How do we make this work together? I want you to know that I'm actually listening to you. Or does Roger go, you know what, I'm so tired of being beat up every talk show. Every single time I say something, it's always wrong. He's not a great public speaker. We know that. I'm just tired of getting beat up all the time. So why don't I go out of my way to show that I'm listening to the players more than they would ever expect, change their preconceived notions about how I'm going to handle this anthem protest, and maybe it helps me a little bit. And maybe it helps me a little bit in the PR structure of this thing, even if it isn't exactly the owner's stance that they want me to take.
Or, third option, he's listening to these owners and strategically saying to them in rebuttal, you want me to put down a hard and fast rule. You want me to throw the hammer down? Might I offer you will have a full-on mutiny on your hands? And he's the one saying, guys, I'm not so sure that's a smart idea.
That's what makes this thing so tough, because right in the middle of this whole deal, if you go, hey, week 10, new rule. This is where the NBA got lucky with this, because they've had it in place since the 90s when no one cared back then. No one cared enough. And they're like, what is the rule? All right, whatever. No big deal. If you did it in the middle of the season, there will be outrage, but then there'd be outrage on the other side going, hey, you have to keep protecting our money. And I don't know what the truth is. I don't know if Papa John's is telling the truth about declining revenue. I don't know if I believe that or not. I don't know if it's declining television because of all the other things that we have going on. The way just normal cable television has destroyed other outlets' ratings throughout the day. So I don't know what to believe on that debate part of it, but I can understand Goodell going to that group going, you know what, guys, we have to be delicate about this. And I can also understand them saying we are worried about our money. All right, coming up next, we have more on the Jerry Jones-Goodell deal and the Cavs. What is the one scenario with the Cleveland Cavaliers where you go, you know what, I'm not buying them to come out of the East? With Will Cain, the Russillo Show, here on Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio. Finishing up real quick before we transition into some NBA stuff with a couple games last night. Jerry Jones, Roger, who do you think wins?
I think Jerry Jones wins. I think Roger Goodell has already lost. I think that when your employer questions your qualifications, payment, and in this world, by the way, in the world of tens of millionaires and hundreds of millionaires and billionaires, asking when someone to take a haircut on their pay is the same thing as saying you're fired or I wish you would leave. It's not like, hey, can we make an adjustment to your pay package? It doesn't come across that way. That's not what it is. I think Jerry Jones ultimately, even if he loses on every public front, wins because he'll still be standing. He'll still be owning the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, the negative hit for Jones is what? Like, do you not want to get into business with the Dallas Cowboys? Did you want to get into business with Jerry Jones earlier this week and then now you don't? No, I'm sure that doesn't sway your opinion whatsoever. Does it hurt Goodell in the room? If we find out more that some of the leaks were saying there's 5 or 6 people that are anti-Goodell, and there's another 6 that are labeled as fence sitters. So we're talking 10, we're talking 12 different owners. So say the compensation. Now, granted, look, if the compensation package works out and the committee kicks it in and say, hey, you could make $40 million a year, you're going to stay on the normal growth. This isn't incentive-based. This isn't all these different bonus structures. You're making the money you thought you would make, and you're going to make even more at the end of this deal. Then Roger could say, fine, 12 you don't like me? Whatever. Look at the bank account. I don't care. But if he looks and says it's not so much about the money, I feel like half this room or a third of this room has lost faith in me, does that then mean his power is limited the rest of the way as commissioner?
Yeah, you know what, Ryan? I think also the lead of this story is no longer Jerry Jones versus Roger Goodell. The lead of this story is billionaire versus billionaire. It's multiple billionaires versus multiple billionaires. This Jerry Jones versus Arthur Blank, owner of the Dallas Cowboys versus owner of the Atlanta Falcons. Jerry Jones sent a letter last night saying that he thinks the owners have been misled by not just Roger Goodell, but Arthur Blank, the owner of the Atlanta Falcons, on Goodell's compensation package. Ryan, that is a battle of titans. That is a heavyweight fight. Goodell versus Jones is not a heavyweight fight, and I think that's Jerry Jones' point in the end. Hey, we're not equals. This is not a heavyweight fight. But Jones versus Blank, now we're talking a fight that has real threat to the league. And by the way, just side note, the Cowboys play the Falcons on Sunday.
Yeah, right. I mean, since they had that 6-man compensation committee of all the owners, headed by Arthur Blank, owner of the Falcons, and Jerry Jones called him the unofficial, ombudsman of the group. They go, hey, this whole thread about the lawsuit, we're done talking about it now. So he's not allowed to talk to those guys anymore. At Mike and Mike is our 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Field Yates more on the commissioner story and Jerry Jones and Richard Sherman's injury. We know he's out for the rest of the year with the Achilles tear. Last night, though, the Cavs lost at the Houston Rockets. They're now 5-7, and they are the worst defensive team in the NBA. And I'm going to ask everybody this because I know kind of there's 2 camps. There's hoping the LeBron thing ends. There's the anti-LeBron group that wants this 7-straight final streak to end. And then there's the other group that no matter what we see, no matter the evidence in front of us, they're always going to believe in the Cavs. And I tell you, if if you're asking me about them coming out of the East, the only way I would truly doubt the Cavs' ability to come out of the East, despite they being right now the worst defensive team in the league, and they were a bad defensive team last year, and now it's even worse, is I have to wake up after Game 82 the next morning, look at the standings, see them in 9th place in the East, and go, yeah, I guess they're not doing it this year. That's the only way. They could play awful all season long, and it's still so hard for me to go up against LeBron because I'm still not sure of all these other teams. Boston has been awesome defensively. They're the 5th youngest team. They're the number 1 defense. That doesn't happen in this league. Toronto, Washington likes to talk. They finally got a win against the Lakers. They lost to your Mavs. That's not a great sign. I'm sorry. But it's so hard to doubt the Cavs, even though it looks so bad.
What is it? How many games in a row they've given up 112 points or more on defense, the Cavs? Whatever it is, it's tied a record with the 1992-93 Dallas Mavericks, who, by the way, went 11-71 that year. Now, I don't think the Cavs are going to go 11-71.
10 straight games.
10 straight games, giving up 112 points or more. I appreciate your patience when it comes to the Cavs. I want to say this. I was wrong about the Celtics defense. When Gordon Hayward went down, I was emphatic that this would be an awful defensive team in Boston, that you don't add Kyrie Irving, second-year player in Jaylen Brown, first-year player in Jason Tatum, and that adds up to an awesome defensive team. So far, I was wrong.
Well, doubting Kyrie Irving defensively wasn't a terrible take. And I remember, 5 or 6 games in the season this year, I'm going, wait a minute, is Kyrie good on defense? Do I tweet this out? And I was afraid. And he's been a completely different guy defensively. That's 1 hour in the books. Will Cain, Ryen Russillo, Field Yates on Sherman's injury next on Mike and Mike.